All right, class. So, welcome to this week's presentation. We're going to talk about different types of tourism. Now, you could classify tourism in many different ways. Any trip is going to have its own unique features, and you can put a label on that. The purpose of this is just to discuss some of the things that people do when they travel, and to try to classify those into certain different categories, so we can um, get a better idea of what's out there. Okay, so let's start. Okay, we're going to be talking about classifications of tourism by scale, and we're also going to be talking about individual classes of tourism. And again, they can branch out from here big time, but we're going to talk about ecotourism, sports tourism, cultural tourism, volunteerism, wellness tourism, medical tourism, adventure tourism, culinary tourism. To you, some of those might sound very similar to each other or interactive with each other, and they are. All right. One trip might have 3 or 4 different classifications. So let's move forward. Okay. So there are many different categories in tourism that explain why people travel, right? The different categories will help explain why that particular individual is traveling at the particular time. All right. So it also indicates the nature of the experience associated with a particular category. All right. Sometimes a single trip can involve several different types of tourism. In the broader sense, tourism can be also divided by or differentiated by scale. All right. So we're going to do that first. We're going to talk about scale. And we're going to have mass tourism, which is large numbers of people visiting destinations. Disneyland is a mass tourism type of place. Uh, Standardized packages, stuff like that. It's just a mass thing. It's big business. It is tourism, the place where the activity exists for the purpose of tourism. We're talking mass tourism. Alternative tourism would be smaller numbers of tourists with more specific destinations, consistent with more natural, social, and community values of the host community. So they're getting they might be going to a community that's not a tourist community, but for the purpose of tourism, right? Or there's an aspect of the community that is tourist, all right, touristy, all right. And then you have special interests, is traveling to a specific destination based on specific interests. It's kind of niche type market, right? Now, when we move forward to the different classifications, some of these can most of the classifications can be any one of these or maybe just one or two. All right, so let's move forward. Okay, so we have ecotourism. Ecotourism is something that's big, and you're going to have a lot of different definitions, a lot of different terms thrown around there. But basically, it's responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and involves interpretation of education. Now, we can have a lot of different natural type tourism that might not have its own category, but we have some related concepts that kind of interact with ecotourism. Now, a true ecotourism or ecotourist, without any of these other add-ons, is someone who strives to leave the smallest environmental impact as possible. Now, some people might, wherever they go, might do that, and they're more eco-oriented. All right. So some related concepts would be sustainable tourism, green tourism, responsible tourism, and geotourism, and nature tourism. And I do believe I have expounded on these. I have. Ecotourism continues. So sustainable tourism is any tourist that takes full account of its current any trip that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts. So that's sustainable. What that actually is sustainable. What's going on now? When I do this, will this facilitate the continuation of it for years to come? Okay. So any tourism that has that in mind, I mean, you can be sustainable tourist in anything, right? Green tourism minimizes environmental impact in nature. So now we're talking about the same thing, but we're talking about nature. I'm going to the nature, but I want to minimize my impact. Now, again, any trip can have characteristics of any one of these. All right, responsible tourism, that's more broad behavioral approach to minimize all negative impacts. I mean, the other ones we're talking primarily about the natural environment, but responsible tourism is being responsible anyway, not being the ugly American. And wherever tour that you're taking is with the idea of having very little impact, negative impact at all. Geotourism, it focuses on the place of unique geographical features, history, and landscape. All right, so you're going to a very specific place that you might be someone who's a spelunker, right? Someone who likes caves. You might only tour caves. That's more geotourism. Nature tourism is traveling in natural areas without inherent sustainability concerns. So basically, thousand, 100 years ago, when people used to go to my home state, to the White Mountains, um, they would go there to see nature, but they weren't really aware of how they should treat it. So they just went there to. Now, most of the time, it was fine. It did sustain them for dozens of years, or for many tens of years, for many decades. So it's not a problem. But when you have volume increasing and without that also increased awareness, then that's when it's a problem. But for general specific sakes, I might want to go to a natural place. The other stuff is all things that I have in my mind, the sustainability and having negative impacts. I should be that way as a human being anyway. But the bottom line is I'm going someplace to experience nature. That's more nature tourism. All right. So now we're going to talk about sports tourism. Sports tourism is nothing more than going someplace to to participate or to watch some kind of sports event. Could be described as events tourism. This involves trips that range in traveling from the next town to attend college football to the Olympics overseas somewhere. 40% of all Americans travel 50 miles or more each year to sporting events. All right, we'll travel to a sporting event 50 miles or more. All right, so 50 miles doesn't seem like an awful lot, but for some folks, 50 miles to go see a football game it would be torture. Who just don't care. But other folks who are fanatics, fans, they'll go. All right. Now, 40% of all Americans are big enough sports fans to do that kind of travel. So there's a lot of money in that. Global sports tourism is $1.41 trillion industry. All right, that's up to 2016. There's some estimates that saying right now we're at 1.5 trillion. That's a lot of money being spent on sports tourism. When you think about it in the United States, we have all of the Super Bowls and all that other stuff, all of our major leagues. But overseas, I mean, the World Cup is a huge thing and stuff like that. Olympics as well. All right. So now we got culinary tourism. Culinary tourism also can be known as heritage or historical tourism. Excuse me. Did I say culinary? I meant cultural. All right. Travelers are motivated wholly or in part by the interest of historical or artistic, scientific, or lifestyle heritage offerings. Subtypes might be geographical tour or geological tourism, dark tourism. Geological is people. My family background is French Canadian. Uh, every once in a while, growing up, we'd go to Canada to the homestead, right? Uh, but I'm also beyond Canadian background. I also have French background. So my sister goes to Paris, and she go for the purpose of getting into the archives and researching our family. All right. So we got stuff like that, or just connecting. Like Italian Americans will go to Italy just to reconnect with their heritage. All right. Now, dark tourism is one that's very interesting me. In other classes I've taught, I actually camped out on this quite a bit. Dark tourism would be going to a place where it is known for something grisly or not too good, like people who go to London to do the Jack the Ripper tours. They walk down and they actually stand in a place where one of the victims was murdered or someplace like that. You go to again in London. I was standing right there at the little stump that they used to lob people's heads off during executions and stuff like that. So I didn't do it there for that purpose. It was part of the general tour. But a lot of people get into that. All right, I mean, true crime is a big thing, and dark tourism can be just an extension of that. All right, so let's move forward. All right, we have voluntourism. Voluntourism is a growing thing. A lot of people want to feel like they're giving back. A lot of people will do that. I mean, I'm not going to speak to their motives. I mean, some people would be cynical, saying they're just trying to get attention or whatever. That doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that it's a big thing. As of 2021, 84% of American millennials, 84% of that entire demographic, that entire generation showed interest in doing some kind of volunteerism. That's going to on a trip, spending your vacation time to volunteer somewhere. All right, estimated at $173 billion worldwide. Examples would be going to a third world country to build schools or dig wells, working in animal shelters. A good example would be Doctors Without Borders, people who volunteer for different charity events, or not charity events, but nonprofit organizations. Um, I have some examples of that, but I really don't have time to talk about that. But this is a big, big deal. All right. So a lot of people feel that this is a good way to still get away from their normal uh, grind, but still do something worthwhile. Okay. So now we have wellness tourism. Wellness tourism is basically just going to a spa, right? You have traveling to a destination domestically or internationally promoting healthy or well-being, health or well-being. Now, spas, yeah, you go to spas, you have the different kinds of treatments, but it could be something else more than that. It could be a spiritual retreat or something like that, which is a little different than religious. But I mean, specifically when you're going someplace to have some kind of activity where you all do yoga or something like that, not necessarily for religious purposes, but the wellness purposes of the religious maybe practice, right? So examples would be spas and retreats. Very simple. All right, $1 trillion global industry at the beginning of 2025. All right, so it might be more now. All right, so moving forward. Medical tourism. Medical tourism is very, very specifically different than wellness tourism. Medical tourism is when people need some kind of procedure, they can't get it. It's either too expensive or regulatory issues at their home place or whatever. So they go somewhere else to get that treatment. It really differs from wellness because it involves specific medical or surgical or dental procedures. Now, nowadays, it's pretty much just somebody goes somewhere. Uh, because they can get a procedure done that they can't get somewhere else. Right? But I remember when I was in England in the 80s, uh, England had free medical to anybody who was in the country for any reason. So people would take from, especially when the fall of the Eastern Bloc happened, a lot of those emerging economies didn't have the structure for people to even stay alive, really. So they would go to England and to get free medical and then go home, right? That you don't see that too much anymore because most of the countries that were being taken advantage, England was just one of with that, have changed their rules. But basically, though, like some places they either just are underdeveloped and they don't have the procedures, or other places the regulations say you can't. I mean, there's a lot of things that cannot happen in the United States that will happen other places. Generally speaking, it's to keep people safe because the government doesn't believe that they are safe, but you may have your opinion on that, whatever. But that's what medical tourism is. Adventure tourism is those folks who are just adrenaline junkies. They want to go do stuff, right? Mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, wildlife safaris, scuba diving, skydiving, surfing, cultural immersion in remote villages. People will go to. I remember reading an article years ago about a guy who used to would just walk into the Amazon wearing nothing but a pair of shorts and just walk around until he met people and had them take care, not take care of them, but work with them and live with them. And he'd spend his vacations doing that. Kind of risky. One of the key things about that is that there is a perceived or real risk. The adventure tourism is not adventure for some folks unless there is a real risk or at least a perceived risk of death or bodily harm. All right. I'm not one of those people. I had enough of that, those risks in my life without paying for it. All right, moving forward. Religious tourism. This is basically just pilgrimages or visiting places of interest of importance to your particular religion. A pilgrimage is different than just visiting a place. A pilgrimage in some religions is a requirement. Okay, so let's move forward. Culinary tourism. Just cooking classes, festivals, wine, but people going overseas, whatever. Going to Italy for 2 week school. I've known people who've done that, and that's a big business. All right. So summary: we talked about the different kind of things. And I'm just on the end of my time, so that's it for this period of or presentation, and I will see you guys in the discussions.